Hey, I wanted to talk about the different types of Christianity, like the different denominations briefly. Um, just to recap, as somebody who did not grow up Christian, was not Christian at all for like 45 years, and then now has been going to church for about 6 years. It's been a journey, and all I know is my personal experiences. So as I talk, you'll probably hear like my own personal attitudes and judgments of a lot of it is the 45 years of, I wouldn't say hating the Christians, but definitely not being one of them. So that will probably come out as I talk about this, because I have a lot of like the Christians are weird still in me, even though I would consider myself fully Christian at this point. But so I was just spending a little time on Google trying to research like, well, what kind of Christian am I? Because I don't know. So what I was learning on Wikipedia was that there's the Christian right, which is not the same as the conservative Christians. And then there's the Christian left, which is not the same as liberal Christianity or like the progressive Christians. Now, I just have to say, I don't know anything about any of that, and I have no idea where I even personally fall on that spectrum. I don't believe I'm a conservative Christian. All my life, those people have been like the enemies. However, I could be, because sometimes when we talk about things like in our family and stuff, in society, like there are some things where I do believe more like that than other ways, right? So I have no idea where I fall in that range. That is a topic for discussion a different day once I figure that out. So growing up, we knew the Christians to be, because we were more like spiritual, right? So to me as a little girl, the Christians were like the Lutherans, the Methodists, right? The Catholics. That's all I knew. And they kind of all do this thing where you're like baptized as a baby. I was baby baptized Methodist. I don't even know. People would say like, oh, well, I'm Methodist then, because I was baptized apparently by a Methodist pastor or whatever. I don't know. That's all I knew. It's still my very limited understanding of those denominations. Like, I just don't know a ton about them. I just know that I'm not them. Like, I'm not like them. They're not like me. We're different, is all I know, right? And then I have recently learned about the evangelical free churches. And I've had, luckily, more than one experience with evangelical free churches, which gives you a broader perspective as opposed to just like your sense of like this one pastor or that one pastor, right? And all I'll say about the evangelical free is they do seem to be like super good people. Also, I don't fit in there. I'm not one of them. I'm not an evangelical free. I can see the super good, solid Christianity of some of these people, but it's not a place where I feel comfortable, right? Personally. They do, and I could be wrong, but tend, I think, be a little bit more of the conservative Christians. So anyway, and I apologize if any of this is like offensive or wrong, because I'm just speaking like my level of understanding at this time. And then I'm currently learning about what I never even really knew existed as a thing is the evangelical covenant churches. Like, I'm learning about them. I'm not sure how I feel about them at this point. Seems good in some ways, and also I'm unclear about the whole situation with like confirmation. Confirmation is a weird thing for me because, again, when I was like in middle school, sorry, the cat's on the table trying to get petted. All the kids were getting like confirmed. Like, that was never a thing. I never got confirmed. I honestly don't want I don't want that for my daughter. Like, I would never seek out confirmation for my daughter. I feel like it's just not a thing I clearly understand or personally don't see value in, because, again, I wasn't confirmed and yet I still turned into a Christian. Because God's going to do what God's going to do, right? So to me, that's confusing still. So I just want to say, even after 6 years of being a Christian, I have no idea of a lot of these really basic things for other people. Like it's all still very confusing to me. And then I've also explored a little bit of the Vineyard churches, the Vineyard movement. I do sort of like that. Like it feels like a little bit good, but I have very limited experience with it. And so I don't know if like my experience is like how much of it is that church or that pastor or whatever. Like, I'm open to it. I don't know a lot about it. There are terms you'll hear like the Jesus movement or Jesus freaks, or like, I think there's this movie like the Jesus Revolution. I'm more like that, right? So you'll have to, again, research that yourself. And then, so my whole pretty much 6 years of upbringing into Christianity was with a non-denominational church. And I thought that was mostly like, that just meant you weren't Lutheran or Methodist or something. You were non-denominational. But really it's more of a thing. Like, according to Wikipedia, again, I don't know if this is accurate, but so there's the charismatic churches, which in some Christian circles, they're really frowned upon and really like judged, and like people are like, you don't want to be a charismatic, right? But the charismatic churches are apparently separated into like 3 different categories. There's Pentecostalism, there's plain old charismatic, and then there's neo-charismatic. And the neo-charismatic is what's called the non-denominational. So that's my whole upbringing. And again, I might have understood Google wrong. Like, I don't even know if I'm speaking the truth right now. Please, always, with everything I say, do your own research, as we've discussed. Sometimes I don't even know if I should be speaking publicly. However, there are people who know less than I do, and I'm speaking to those people, mostly like my family. Like, this is new for us. So if I get it wrong, I get it wrong, but it's still more information than you had yesterday if you're in my family, right? Anyway, so the non-denominational is more like neo-charismatic. Apparently, those churches feel like home to me. Those churches feel normal to me, right? The non-denominational, which sort of kind of is a denomination, sort of. It's semi-charismatic. So it's an easy switch for me. Like if I bounce around and I try out like a Pentecostal church, like I can understand where they're coming from. Like we speak the same language, or more charismatic churches. Like I feel more at home, right? Because that's like what I know. And so what it said was that, and a lot of these churches, you're going to have adult baptism or like teenage or whatever. You're going to have somebody have made a conscious decision. Not even just a decision. God was moving in their life in a way where they couldn't help but be water baptized. They weren't baptized as an infant, or maybe they were, but then they were baptized again when it was like the Spirit was moving, right? And they needed to be water baptized. And then you're going to be water baptized, and you're going to be baptized of the Holy Spirit. There's like 2 different things going on there. But anyway, so and then you'll experience like these, like, it's about your relationship with Jesus, and you experience like, you'll expect that supernatural occurrences are expected to be present in the lives of believers. So things like signs, wonders, miracles, dealing with spiritual warfare, the spiritual gifts, discernment, like things like this are like normal, commonplace, average Joe. If you're interacting with someone, you're going to talk about it like it's like nothing, right? You're like, it's normal. It's a normal part of life for people who fall into this category of the way we do church. Those are my people. The problem is I keep trying to find a small church as opposed to a really big church. And I haven't yet found a small church of people like this. It's like the churches of people like this are so big. Why? And I think that in a sense, that's a good thing, that these churches are big. But this is where I'm struggling. It's like I'm trying to find a small church that's like this. And I haven't found it. It's like as if it doesn't exist, right? In my little world so far. Anyway, and then coming from somebody off of like a more of a spiritual, new agey background, it's an easy switch. It's an easy step into Christianity when you come in this way, right? Into the non-denominational, charismatic, spiritual gifts, signs, wonders, because you're open to it. You are already open to like signs and wonders and miracles. Because when you're in the new age world or the spiritual world, like, I mean, there's similarities, right? So you're open in a way where somebody who was born, maybe who wasn't spiritual or wasn't charismatic at all. Maybe they grew up like as some conservative. I don't want to judge because I don't know who the conservative Christians are. But if you grew up in a way where like signs, wonders, and miracles are not a thing really, or like that those stopped long time ago, I think it's called cessation, something. I don't know. If you believe that's like not a thing now, it wouldn't be normal to you to experience it, or you might experience it and you might blow it off because you think these things don't happen anymore. So it's like, when really it does happen, but you might not see it. Your eyes might not be open to it because you believe that was only back in the day when they wrote the Bible, like this is an old thing, right? If you believe that, you're not going to see it. So there are people though who believe that, who they think like that's not a thing. These people who are charismatics, like something's wrong with them, right? There's so much division within Christianity. There's so much disunity and disharmony and internal judgment of the right is going to judge the left and the left is going to judge the right and the conservatives are going to judge the progressives and the people who are doing baby baptisms are going to judge the people who are doing adult baptisms and the adult baptisms. It's just like there is so much discord, and that's exactly what the enemy wants. And that's exactly what... Sorry, I got cut off again. So Jesus was praying for unity. Can we get some unity around here? And it's still so divided, like in the Christian realm, which is unsettling and unfortunate and like unpleasant to experience as a new believer, as a new Christian. You're like, wow, there's a lot of discord here, right? Or you might accidentally insult people or be judgy against them because you're just speaking from your own personal, very limited baby Christian experience and not understand the bigger picture of all the different ways everyone does everything. You might just think, this is all I know, is my little experience. And so when I speak just very naturally and openly about it, you might be insulting other people with your words because it's different for them, right? And you're too innocent and young to understand how that... All right, I had to delete YouTube off of my phone so I could keep recording this because it was taking up too much storage on my phone. So hopefully that doesn't cause any trouble for me. Anyway, so then I want to talk about Assemblies of God. So I don't know a lot about Assemblies of God, but I'm, again, open to it. I feel like I would like to explore some Assemblies of God churches, right? And interestingly, like I'll try not to give details. There are people I know who, when I was a child, they were like so Christian. We were like, they're really weird. They're so Christian. And then more recently, as I've been exposed to them, these are the only people where I'm like, these people are just like me. Oh, thank goodness. Like somebody who's like, just like me, like we're the same. I love them. And then they go to Assemblies of God church. And then there was also this pastor once at my non-denominational church who was my favorite pastor of all. This man was like so wonderful. I loved him. He's not currently there, but he grew up Assemblies of God. So I'm very like curious, like who are these Assemblies of God people? Like I really think that I really like them, but I don't know anything about them, or I've never gone to an Assemblies of God church other than like once, They apparently follow, like the Assemblies of God and the Pentecostal are very similar. I think the Pentecostal focuses a little bit more on like speaking in tongues or something, and the Assemblies of God are a little less like that, but I could be wrong about that. And then again, speaking in tongues, I cannot speak in tongues. I'm not even sure, like, there have been times I've been in environments where people were speaking in tongues very openly, And there were some of them where I thought to myself, this is demonic. This is not the Holy Spirit moving through them. This is demonic. Some of these people who, like, I'm unsure. So their discernment is super important when it comes to like some of these things, because if you are opposed to any sort of like spiritual gift stuff, then you're sheltered in a sense from anything yucky that might move through those channels, right? So, but if you're really open to a lot of that stuff, then there's also like, you have to be discerning. You need discernment along the way with that stuff, with anything, honestly. But I forget what I was talking about. Oh, speaking in tongues. However, I do have the story of where I was right over here in my kitchen swearing, talking just in random conversation, swearing like it's normal, which for me, it oftentimes is or was. And it was like God was changing the words coming out of my mouth as I was speaking without my like permission. Like I felt like a puppet. The words coming out of me were not my words. It was like the swear word got taken away and replaced with a sweet, loving, innocent word. And it was stark, and yet it still fit into the conversation. And it happened twice in that conversation. And the other person I was talking to caught it, and they were like, what was that? And I'm like, I don't know. And what was that? I don't know. And then I was like, must be the Holy Spirit. Must be God. God must really not, not want us to be taking the Lord's name in vain or whatever. I don't remember what I said, but it was like, there's a piece where I remember that as like, okay, God can control the words coming out of me. It was like, God was like showing, like, don't do this. It's time for you to stop this. And also I have power to change the words coming out of you. Right. And so I'm open to, again, if people are speaking in tongues so that they can communicate with somebody who speaks this other language and they're sharing the gospel or whatever, and someone who didn't know Spanish all of a sudden is speaking Spanish with this other person so they can communicate about Jesus. Like, that stuff happens. I believe that can happen. I have not personally experienced it, but when people are speaking in tongues where no one can understand them, an important piece of that is you're supposed to have somebody else there who can understand it and can interpret it, right? Can translate it for everyone. I'm also open to that. I don't have any really exposure with any of that stuff, but I'm not opposed to it, right? I just don't know anything about it. And I cannot speak in tongues to my knowledge. So there are people who will say, well, if you can't speak in tongues, then you don't have the Holy Spirit in you. And I would be like, well, that's wrong, because I know I have the Holy Spirit in me, and yet I'm pretty sure I can't speak in tongues. So it's like everyone has these different ideas and different like perceptions of like how it should be or how it is, right? Anyway, so I'm open to Assemblies of God. Apparently Pentecostal is a little more like where they don't wear jewelry or don't drink alcohol. I just don't take it to that extreme. So I'm probably not official Pentecostal, but again, I'm open. Like it would probably feel better for me to be in a Pentecostal church than it would to be in like a Lutheran or Catholic, right? Because it's slightly more charismatic. I apparently am charismatic. And what else was I gonna say? Okay, so then for God, right, when I say God all the time. I don't oftentimes specify the Holy Spirit did this, or even that. People will be like, you don't say the Holy Spirit, you say Holy Spirit, like God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. And other people will be like the Spirit or the Holy Spirit. There's a whole thing there. I always say the, but apparently other people will take offense to that. But anyway, so I just say God. I don't say like I said, I don't go into so much Jesus this, Jesus that, Holy Spirit this, Holy Spirit that. I can't tell the difference if it's Jesus doing something, God doing something, the Spirit doing something. I can't tell. So I just say God all the time. And I think that causes a reaction in other people where they're like, oh, God told you this or God told you that. because they have a different like language that they might speak to say these things. And other people might be like, the Spirit told me this or this, and people might hear it better because they'll understand, okay, it's not like it's sort of like you heard from God through the Spirit, right? So there's just the terminology and the language as somebody coming into the faith and just knowing what I'm experiencing and not knowing all the right words and all the right terminology and all the right, like, it has been an adjustment dealing with the longtime Christians because they have all that down. To them, they know it all. And I don't know any of it. So I just feel like I'm constantly offending people without meaning to offend them. But anyway, so then that's why, like in the Catholics, they do the sign of the cross, right? They do Father, Son, Holy Spirit, because God is all of it, right? All of that is God. And then I want to read what this is. Oh, going back to baptism. So baptism of, there's baptism of water and baptism of the Spirit. And in the Bible, it talks about like, oh, you've been baptized of the Spirit? Well, let's quick get you baptized in water. Or it'd be like, oh, you've been water baptized? Well, just wait till the Spirit comes. Now you're going to be Spirit baptized. Like, I have distinct memories of both. I don't have any memory of when I was baby baptized, although it did happen. And I don't know what that did, if anything. I don't know. Maybe it's great that I was baby baptized. My children were not baby baptized. But my brother and I were. But my brother's not a Christian, but he was baby baptized. And then I was adult baptized, water baptized. And then right here, this like literally next to me, I'm pretty sure, I can't say for sure what was going on, but I'm pretty sure that's right where I was standing when I was like Holy Spirit baptized, because I could describe it. At the time, I knew that it was God. I didn't like identify this as like something bad happening. Like I was 100% like this was like God was doing something. And I just remember it felt like, I remember thinking like this is too much. It did feel like burning fire in a way. It felt like when they talk about I don't even know how they talk about the Holy Spirit, like the fire descending on you or something. I don't know how, but it did feel like, it felt like fire burning into my entire body. And I remember even probably bending down. Like, I don't think I stayed fully standing. I think I was like bending down and be like, God, enough. I remember even putting my hand up like, enough. Like, I cannot take it. Like, it's too much. Like, in a sense, what it would be like, it'd be like too much purity and too much holiness and too much like the Spirit of God coming in, like descending in my little unpure, unholy body, and like it just like burning up as it goes. And just like I was like, I couldn't take it. Like I was like, this is too much. And then it was over with, like nothing. I don't remember anything else after. Like it was nothing. Like I moved on with life like it was normal, because so much was happening in the beginning of like coming to faith that everything like that was weird, but also normal. Like it was weird to be coming to faith, and it was normal, all the weird things that happened along the way. So I didn't question it. It wasn't until somebody later was talking about I guess being baptized of the Spirit or whatever, and the way that they had described it was exactly the way it had happened for me and the way it felt for me. And I thought, they get it. They understand that. And I think maybe if that happens, it's so subtle, where it could happen, say you accept Christ, or I don't even know the terminology, when you're like 3, or I have an issue with that, but if, at a younger age, you might not catch the Spirit entering. You're not filled with 45 years of sin, right? You're much more pure at age 3. You might not catch it, right? Or like even as a teenager. But if you've been a non-Christian for 45 years, and then the Spirit enters you, you're usually going to feel that. You're going to like sense it or be aware that it happened. It's not going to be a mystery to you that God's working in your life. Like you're going to know that God is working in your life. And so that's why I am such a firm believer of like adult baptism as opposed to say infant baptism, because when the Spirit moves, like you don't want to just assume you're good because you were baby baptized. You might still need an adult baptism or the Holy Spirit. Like I don't understand how it works, so I apologize if I'm completely wrong. But that's what I believe. And then my last notes were about, I'm learning about, because when I think of the spiritual gifts, I think about, like, it always says like when I take the tests, it always says my top 3 are like faith, mercy, and discernment. And I can't remember, I don't know what my 4th, I never look at the next ones. There's always like a range. I should probably take the test again or like see like, well, what's my 4th and 5th, or, but discernment stands out for me because it's a thing I didn't have, and then it's a thing I did have, and when I did have it, it was so necessary at the time, and also it sometimes has felt more like a curse than a blessing, right? It's like, I don't understand discernment. To this day, I'm still looking for somebody like who else has discernment so they can like help me with it, because I don't understand it. I know what I experience and I know what I see, and I know that it's weird enough where you probably shouldn't talk to other people about it unless they understand discernment. So it's like, I'm also very silent about it, but it's one of the biggest changes of like becoming a Christian, but it was necessary. There was so much going on in our family and such in my last 6 years that the discernment has been so valuable. If I didn't have it, I think I would have been in trouble. So I'm so thankful for that gift. I believe that is definitely a spiritual gift because I didn't have it before, and it has been necessary for me to have that gift, right? But even though I think of it kind of like a curse, so I wouldn't say, oh, it's a gift. It's like a thing, and I need help with it, is what it is. And then faith. And then mercy, which to me, that's like, whatever. You should be merciful as a Christian, or you should have faith as a Christian. So I don't get how those are so like, whatever, like how those spiritual gifts, I don't get it. And then, but there's apparently 5 offices. This is new to me. So something about apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher. And I don't know I have any of that. Like, I have no idea about any of that. So like in Ephesians 4:11 through 13, they'll talk about the gifts. They'll talk about those 5 offices. Now, discernment's not in there, right? But I do notice there are some churches where they never will ever talk about the spiritual gifts. Ever. They're not talking about the 5 offices. They're not talking about the other spiritual gifts. They don't ever discuss it. It never comes up. As opposed to the churches who are more charismatic, where they do believe, right? I want to read this again. I love this. That supernatural occurrences are expected to be present in the lives of believers. Signs, wonders, miracles, spiritual gifts, like that's expected and normal. That's the kind of Christian I am. And I think I struggle sometimes when I encounter other people who they're like, yeah, I've been a Christian for 60 years, but I don't have any signs to tell you about. I don't have any wonders to tell you about. I don't have any miracles to tell you about. I don't ever talk about the spiritual gifts, but I've been a Christian for 60 years. To me, I would look at that and be like, what's wrong here? I don't understand why it's so different. I don't understand, because I expect these things to be present in the lives of believers because that's how it is for me. So I expect it to be in other Christians. I look for it and it stands out to me when it's missing. And it's not that I'm judging them like, oh, something's like wrong here, but I do feel it. I feel like, what's wrong? I don't understand why that isn't that way for you, because it's all I know. And I wasn't taught to believe it. I wasn't trained to believe it. I don't believe it because I read it somewhere. I believe it because of my personal experience with Jesus. And so it confuses me how for some people that's not a thing. And that's something I struggle with. So I might ask like people like, well, what makes somebody a Christian? Because I'm confused about it. That is just saying you believe enough, or what's the baptism element in that? Or do you have to have like evidence of these things. Like, what makes somebody a Christian, right? And everyone will, again, have different beliefs about that. Or they'll think, oh, well, because you're asking, you think that, oh, you're so great because you think you're a Christian and they're not so great, or whatever. And people will read into it like a false motive or a false assessment of why you're asking. The reason why I ask questions is because I'm new and confused. So anyway, that is all I have to say. This is like a really long video. I don't even know how I'm gonna piece it all together and upload it, but thank you for listening. I had a conversation with my sister, maybe, I don't know, a year ago. I don't remember when it was. And she was like asking like, well, are you an evangelical? She's trying to understand, what kind of Christian are you? I'm like, I don't even know. And we were trying to figure out, like, am I evangelical or am I not evangelical? And at the time I was attending an evangelical free church, but it's not like I really fit in there. Pretty sure they didn't want me there, and, you know, we're different, you know? So there's just, am I evangelical in the sense of, do I believe everyone should know Jesus and like have a relationship with Jesus? And do I want everyone to like come to faith in that way? Yeah. So maybe I am an evangelical. And yet, would I identify as like a conservative Christian? No. And yet, do I have some of the beliefs of some of the conservative Christians? Yes. So it's just very blurry. It's like soup, right? It's like alphabet soup, the whole world of Christianity. And it's a struggle not knowing any of that and then coming in. So I just want to say, this is what I know as of today. I trust that my understanding of all of this stuff about Christianity will grow over time. But again, I'm less interested in the study of it. I'm less interested in how does it all work. And I'm more generally only interested in maintaining like my relationship with the Lord, right? And having the cool experiences that help me understand that God is real and still present and here. And I want that for the people who I love, right? My children, especially first, but like everyone, like I want that for everyone. So I focus a lot more on the relationship over everything else. So on the side, I might over time learn some of this and kind of find my home. But I think it's good for people to hear, especially people who don't know any of this, right? So anyway, I hope that's helpful to someone. Have a great day. Bye.